Poor girl saves billionaire's wife, but no one knows why she risked her life. The mansion was burning like hell, glass exploding, people screaming, but she didn't stop. She kicked the door open, dragged the unconscious woman through the smoke, and vanished before anyone could ask her name. The next morning, headlines screamed, "Unknown girl saves billionaire's wife." The billionaire stood silent in front of the TV, staring at her blurred photo. There was something familiar in her eyes, something he had seen before years ago. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. The fire was out, but the smoke hadn't left his mind. Arman Malik, one of the richest men in the city, stood in front of what used to be his mansion. Just ashes now. His wife Meher was in the hospital, alive but unconscious. The world called it a miracle. But Arman couldn't stop thinking about the girl who saved her. Every TV channel replayed the same footage. A barefoot girl, face covered in soot, dragging Meher out of the flames before disappearing into the night. She didn't wait for credit, didn't take a reward, didn't even look back. Arman whispered, "Who are you?" 3 days passed. He sent his people everywhere. Police, news reporters, charity workers. No one found her. Until one afternoon, while driving through an old part of the city, Arman saw her. She was sitting under a bridge, feeding stray dogs with leftovers from a food stall. Her clothes were torn, her hands bruised, but there was peace on her face. Arman stopped his car and walked toward her slowly. "You're the girl from the fire," he said. She didn't look up. "You've mistaken me." "No," he replied. "I saw you. You saved my wife." She finally looked up, and for a second Arman froze. There was something haunting in her eyes. Not fear, not pride, just a quiet pain. "You saved her life," Arman said softly. "I owe you everything." The girl stood up, brushing the dust from her hands. Her voice was calm but heavy. "You already took everything once." Arman blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" But she turned and walked away without another word. He stood there, speechless. For the first time in his life, the billionaire who had all the answers had none. That night, he couldn't sleep. The girl's words echoed in his head. "You already took everything once." But how? When? Who was she? He knew one thing. He wouldn't rest until he found out. The next morning, Arman sat in his office, restless. Files lay open, but his mind was somewhere else. That girl's eyes, her words. He kept replaying them in his head like a broken record. "You already took everything once." He called his security chief. "I want everything about her. CCTV, social media, hospital lists, anything." By evening, his team returned with one photo, blurry, taken by a street vendor. The girl was standing near an old building. The sign behind her said Sunrise Orphanage. Arman froze. That name hit something inside him. It was the same orphanage his company had once funded years ago before it shut down. He remembered visiting it once with his wife, Meher. He even remembered holding a small child's hand, a girl with big brown eyes and messy hair. He whispered, "No way." The next day, he went there. The building was half broken, the walls covered in fading paint and old posters. The caretaker, an old woman, recognized him instantly. "Sir, you came years ago, when your wife donated." "Yes," Arman replied quietly. "That girl? The one feeding dogs near here, and do you know her?" The woman nodded slowly. "We call her Noor. She grew up here. Never knew her parents. Always helped the little ones." Arman felt something twist in his chest. He walked around, saw drawings on the walls. Small hands had written names, dreams, and wishes. And then on one wall he saw a photo, his wife Meher smiling, holding a baby. He touched it. "Why is this here?" The caretaker sighed. "That was the day she left the baby here." His hand trembled. "What did you say?" "She brought the child crying. Said she couldn't keep her. Never came back." Arman stepped back, his breathing heavy. "His wife left a baby here. And Noor, that girl, and she grew up here." His head spun. The fire, the rescue, her words, all of it started connecting. He whispered to himself, "She isn't just a stranger." He didn't finish the sentence. He couldn't, because deep down, he already knew where this was leading. That night, Arman sat beside his wife's hospital bed. Machines beeped quietly, and the room smelled of medicine and silence. Meher looked fragile, her hand covered with burns but still wearing the diamond ring he'd given her 20 years ago. He watched her breathe, every rise and fall pulling him deeper into guilt.
"She left a baby," The caretaker's words haunted him.
He whispered softly, "Meher, what did you do?" Hours passed. Finally, her eyes opened slowly. "Armin?" she murmured. He leaned closer. "You're safe," he said, trying to smile. But his voice shook. "There's something I need to ask." She blinked weakly. "What is it?" He showed her the photo he'd taken from the orphanage wall, her holding a baby. Her eyes widened. Her lips trembled. "Where did you find that?" "Sunrise Orphanage," he said. "They said you left her there." The color drained from her face. "Arman, I can explain." "Then explain," he snapped, his voice breaking. "You had a child before we married? And you left her?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was 20, scared. My parents wouldn't accept me." "I thought she'd be better off without me." Armin stepped back. His throat burned. "And you never told me?" "I wanted to," she whispered. "But every time I looked at you, I saw the man who saved me from that life. I didn't want to lose it all again." He stared at her. The woman he'd built an empire with, the woman he thought he knew. He whispered, "Her name is Noor." Meher's eyes widened in shock. "You found her?" "She found you," Armin said quietly. "She's the one who ran into the fire." Meher gasped, covering her mouth. No, it can't be." Armin's voice broke. "She saved you, Meher. The daughter you abandoned saved your life." The room fell silent except for the sound of her crying. For the first time, she looked small, not as a billionaire's wife, but as a mother who'd failed her child. Arman turned away, whispering, "Maybe fate brought her back. Not for you, but for both of us." 2 days later, Armin called Noor to the hospital. She refused at first, but he insisted. "Please, it's not for me. It's for her." She finally agreed. When Noor entered the hospital, everyone stared. Her clothes were simple, her hands still bruised, yet there was a calm power in her presence. Meher sat up in bed, weak but awake. When she saw Noor, her eyes filled with tears instantly. Noor stood by the door. "You wanted to see me?" Meher's voice trembled. "Yes. Please, come here." Noor didn't move. "Why, so you can thank me?" Arman tried to speak, but Meher raised her hand gently. "I owe you more than thanks." Noor's tone turned cold. "You owe me nothing. You gave me away before I could even say a word." The room went silent. Arman looked down, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Meher started crying. "I was young. I was scared. I didn't know what to do." Noor replied sharply, "You knew enough to abandon me." "Please," Meher whispered. "Don't hate me." Noor took a deep breath. "I don't. Hate would mean I still have space for love somewhere." Arman stepped forward, trying to calm the storm. "Noor, please understand, she never stopped thinking about you. She broke down when she found out it was you who saved her." Noor looked at him with quiet fire. "She didn't save me when I needed her." That line hit like a bullet. Meher sobbed uncontrollably. "I can't undo what I did. But if you could forgive me, even once," Noor interrupted. "Forgive you?" "Forgiveness is for people who forget. I remember every night I cried, wishing someone would come back for me." The room filled with silence again. Arman looked between the two women, one broken by her past, the other by the scars it left behind. Finally, Noor whispered, almost to herself, "I didn't save you because you're my mother. I saved you because I didn't want another child to lose theirs." Her words shattered whatever was left in the air. Meher covered her face, crying quietly, and Arman, he just stood there helpless, realizing that no amount of money could fix what love once broke. That night, the hospital lights dimmed. Meher sat by the window, staring at the city lights beyond the glass. The same city that once praised her beauty, her wealth, her power. But all she saw now was her reflection, and the face of the girl she left behind. Arman stood behind her, silent. He didn't know what to say, or if saying anything would even matter. "She hates me," Meher whispered. "No," Arman said quietly. "She hurts." "There's a difference," Meher turned to him, tears still fresh. "All these years I thought success would bury the past, but every time I smiled I was just hiding the guilt." Arman sighed, rubbing his face. "We both made mistakes. Maybe this fire wasn't destruction. Maybe it was a message." Meher looked away. "She'll never forgive me." "Maybe she doesn't need to," Arman replied. "Maybe she just needs to know you're sorry." The next morning, Arman went to Noor's orphanage. The children ran around her as she served them food. Her eyes still held that same calm sadness. When Armin approached, she stood up slowly. "I didn't come for forgiveness," he said. "I came to tell you." She remembers every day. She's broken, Noor. Noor looked at the kids playing nearby. "Broken things can still shine, Mr. Malik. I've seen it every day." He nodded, speechless. Before leaving, Armin handed her a small envelope. "It's not money," he said. Noor opened it. Inside was a photo. Her as a baby in Meher's arms. Her eyes softened for a second, but then she folded the photo gently and said, "She kept this?" Armin nodded. "All these years?" For a moment, Noor didn't say anything. The pain, the memories, the noise, everything felt still. She just said quietly, "Maybe that's enough." As Armin left, he looked back once. Noor stood in sunlight filtering through the trees, holding that photo close to her chest, the same way she once held her hope. And in that moment, he knew something inside her had started to heal, even if it was just a crack. 2 days later, Meher requested something no one expected. "Take me to her." Armin hesitated. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I have lived with silence too long. I need to face it one last time." They reached the orphanage just before sunset. The golden light fell on the cracked walls and laughter of children filled the air, the kind of sound that once belonged to Meher's life, but never to her heart. Noor was sweeping the yard when she saw them. For a moment she froze. The broom slipped from her hand. Armin stepped forward. "She just wants to talk," he said softly. Meher walked closer, her voice trembling. "Noor, I'm not here to explain. I'm here to apologize." Noor's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. Meher's eyes filled with tears. "Every night I saw your face. Every success felt smaller because you weren't there. I kept that photo not to remember what I lost, but to remind myself what I threw away." Silence. Only the wind moved between them. Noor looked down, her voice quiet but sharp. "Do you know what's worse than being abandoned? Wondering every day if you were ever loved." Meher broke down completely. "I did love you. I just didn't know how to be brave back then." Something in those words hit Noor differently this time. The anger didn't vanish, but it cracked, just a little. Armin placed his hand on Noor's shoulder. "She's not asking for your forgiveness. She just wants to see you happy. Once." Noor took a deep breath, her voice shaking. "Happiness doesn't come easy, Mr. Malik, but maybe peace can." Meher reached out her hand slowly, not expecting her to take it, but Noor did. For just a moment. The touch lasted 2 seconds, but it felt like years collapsing into one moment of truth. Meher smiled through her tears. "Thank you, even if it's just for this." Noor whispered. "This isn't forgiveness. It's understanding," and that was enough. The sun dipped behind them, painting the sky with fire. A fire that this time didn't destroy anything. It healed. Weeks passed. Noor went back to her routine. The orphanage, the children, her quiet evenings. But something inside her had shifted. The storm wasn't gone, but the sky wasn't dark anymore. One morning, she received a call from Armin. "We're opening a new foundation," he said. "In your name, the Noor Trust. It will fund education and homes for abandoned kids." She paused, unsure what to feel. "You don't have to do this," she said. Armin replied gently. "No, we need to." At the launch event, cameras flashed, people clapped. But Noor stood quietly at the corner, her mind elsewhere. When she looked at the banner, "Because every child deserves to be found," her eyes filled with tears. Later, Armin walked up to her. "You've changed everything for us." Noor smiled faintly. "No, I just reminded you what you already knew. Love isn't charity." Then Meher approached, dressed simply, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked fragile but peaceful. "Noor," she said softly, "I didn't think I'd have the strength to stand here. But you gave it back to me." Noor looked at her. "You gave me life. Maybe that's enough." Meher shook her head. "No, you gave me back my soul." There was silence. Not the cold kind, but the kind that comes after understanding. As they stood together, one of the reporters asked Noor for a quote. She hesitated, then said something that left everyone quiet. "Sometimes the people you save are the ones who once broke you." But healing isn't about revenge. It's about returning what the world took from both of you. Armin stood behind her, eyes wet but proud. For the first time in years, he saw both of them, the woman he loved and the daughter he never had. standing side by side. And in that moment he realized, the mansion, the fire, the pain, none of it was punishment. It was the universe forcing them to find what they'd lost long ago, each other. Months later, life slowly returned to rhythm. The mansion was rebuilt, not as a symbol of power this time, but of purpose. Armand renamed it House of Hope. Half of it became a shelter for orphans, and the other half a rehabilitation center for fire victims. The first person to step inside its new gates was Noor. Her footsteps echoed in the same hallway where fire once raged. She stopped for a moment, looking up at the ceiling, remembering the night she ran through smoke and fear. Armand and Meher stood behind her, quietly watching. Meher whispered, "When I built this house, I filled it with things. Not love," Armand added softly. "Now it finally means something." Noor turned around and smiled faintly. Maybe that's what the fire came for, to burn what wasn't real. They walked together, passing through rooms now filled with children's laughter and warm light. A little girl tugged Noor's hand and said, "Auntie, is it true you saved someone from fire?" Noor knelt down, smiled and said, "No, I just helped someone find their way back home." Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky in gold and orange, the same colors that once meant destruction, now symbolizing rebirth. Armand looked at Noor and said quietly, "I used to think money could fix everything." She replied gently, "Sometimes it only builds walls. Love breaks them." Meher walked ahead, stopping by the main gate where a new plaque had been installed. It read, "Dedicated to those who were lost and those who chose to return." Tears glistened in her eyes. "It's beautiful," she said. Noor smiled. "It's ours." For a moment, the three of them stood there, not billionaire, not orphan, not wife, just people bound by fate, forgiveness, and something far stronger than pain. The wind blew softly through the open gates, carrying the faint smell of smoke, not from destruction this time, but from the candles burning gently inside. The same fire that once destroyed them had now lit their hearts again. Sometimes fate doesn't burn to end you, it burns to cleanse you. The ones who hurt us often become the reason we find ourselves again. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it rewrites it. Because in the end, even ashes can grow something beautiful.